Hey there, everybody. Good morning. What a great time to be with you all. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I was a part of the planning of this day for you all, and I'm excited for you. What a great day you're going to have. What a great morning, right? So I know that you've already heard from Monica this morning about Mother Teresa. So I'm going to extend or build on Monica's talk, I believe, and talk to you about serving in your own Calcutta, which is the name of today's event, right? Mother Teresa was an amazing soul, so much so that, of course, she's a saint. But she was a simple woman. She wasn't anything big, bright, shiny. She didn't like that, right? She was about the simple. And one of her greatest things that she ever said to somebody, although there were many of them, believe me, I was looking them up, was when somebody asked, hey, listen, or something like this, right? I want to come serve with you. And she said, you don't have to serve with me. You can serve in your own Calcutta, wherever you are. And let's face it, the world is full of Calcuttas. I think we could say that Calcutta is a place of want, a place of hurt, um, a place of disruption. And we can find all those things where we live and even in ourselves, can't we? In our families, within our friend groups. Just turn on the news, folks. Calcutta is everywhere. And we can make a difference in our own Calcuttas. And as I said, we all kind of have some, but I'm going to tell you a little story of my own. And then hopefully it will be used to be illustrative of what we're talking about. So, in a previous life, um, I was a lot of things all at once. I was a full-time mom, full-time grandmother, full-time army wife, and that's a job, let me tell you. I was full-time in ministry as well. I was running a worldwide ministry at the time, the Military Council of Catholic Women worldwide. So there were a number of things I had my hands in. And of course, to me, the ministry part of it was the big thing that I was doing. I was being called to do this. And believe me, I loved it. I loved being a servant to those in the military in a ministerial aspect. Then one day happened, and that day was my husband's retirement. And right before that day, other things happened. But we're going to get to the retirement part. So within a very short period of time, I want to call it about 6 weeks, but it seemed like one day, our youngest went off to college. And just right after that, we took our daughter and granddaughter to Texas to live with Matthew, my son-in-law. And then it was retirement. And so I went from being a full-time mom to an empty nester like that. Not only that, but I was a full-time grandma too. And all of that in a short span of time went away. Also not a full-time army wife anymore. And that's a big deal. I had a purpose serving my husband so that he could serve the nation. I'm not patting myself on the back. It's just it's what we all should do, right? We're supporting each other as spouses, as friends, as whatever. We're there to be that for somebody else. And for me, I was a full-time army wife and a full-time wife. And I'll get to that. But I was full-time in ministry as well. And once you're no longer in the military, you get a supportive role, minor supportive role in the ministry. So all of a sudden, all those things were taken away from me, to include the fact that we had our own home. And now, within that 6-week span of time, all that's taken away. And Mike and I are now living in my nephew Tyler's bedroom in my sister Janine's house, because in the time since retirement, we realized that we were needed other places. Michael's dad got sick, so he went to Kansas. We found out my dad was sick, so I thought, oh, let me spend some time with my sister who lives around the corner from my dad, and help take care of my dad while we decide what to do. Well, what was supposed to be a short period of time turned into 8 years. 8 years total of taking care of my dad. For me, 3.5, almost 4 years living with my sister. So I went from all of this stuff to having all of my stuff in a tiny room in my sister's house, and God bless her for her generosity. But now I wasn't doing any of the things I was doing before. I was lost. And I also wasn't working in ministry because the plan was, here's the plan, right? We all have plans. Once my husband retired, I was going full time ministry. I already had plans. I had speaking engagements. I was forming my own apostolate. I get the words, I had it laid out. I was going to find a way to forge a way to make the world a better place. But I said to you all, Calcutta can be many different places. And after long periods of feeling sorry for myself, I realized that I was in a different kind of Calcutta now. I was serving, but in a very different way, not in a lights and, camera kind of way, but in a very personal way within a family that I had moved away from 30 some odd years ago. My Calcutta became that tiny room in my sister's house. And my Calcutta became the house around the corner, which was my dad's house. And so I would definitely learned through humility that I was called to serve. And then that made me think back about all the different things. And I'm thinking my main focus is service is this ministry thing. But then I thought back and I thought about the things that brought me joy when I was a full-time mom and grandmother. I loved making school lunches. I loved cooking for my family. I loved going to the grocery store. I felt purpose in those things. I would write notes in my kids' lunch boxes. I loved washing their sheets and letting them come home and go to bed and be like, thanks, Mom, from their room because their sheets were clean. Those were all little Calcuttas. They were service to others. And that's what Mother Teresa meant, I believe, when she said, serve in your own Calcutta, folks. That can be our families, right? It can be where we are in the moment. It can be scrubbing the floor. We don't want to think of that as service. We think of that as servitude, but we don't want to think of that as service, do we, right? We can serve where we are in the moment. We don't have to wait. I was waiting to be called to service outside of the circumstance I was in, and it was making me miserable. And I'll be honest, when I first came to St. Cecilia as well, I spent 3 years waiting to be of service. And then finally, meeting friends, becoming a part of the women's ministry, although I was also part of the evangelization team, which is now the Faith in Action ministry. It took a long time to find out that just being there, and just even in my own home now after my dad died and I was no longer a full-time caregiver, you have to find or be comfortable with wherever God is calling you to that next Calcutta. Calcutta doesn't mean dirty streets and bare feet and starvation, although it certainly can. But we can starve in many ways. Be starved for love, right? Be starved for attention. Be starved for order in our world, and we can all affect those for other people. So there's a neat little quote here. There are so many quotes from Mother Teresa, but I do have one here on my phone, which I'm going to go to my photos and find for you. So give me just a second. And I do love it. It says, bring love into your home. And this is what Mother Teresa says. It's easy to love people far away. It's not easy to love those close to us. It's easier to give a cup of rice to relieve hunger than to relieve the loneliness and pain of someone unloved in our own home. Bring love into your home, for this is where our love for each other must start. Listen, we see it all over the place, that the destruction of the home is part of what is allowing the destruction of our society, right? We must start in our home. We must look at our home, not in a bad way as a Calcutta, but in the way that Mother Teresa means it, where this is a place for us to serve. I don't know if Monica mentioned it, but one of the symbols that we've come up with in the ministry is the Kitchen Mary, which within the study group, what we do is each month, one woman has the Kitchen Mary, and I think it should be there with you, so hopefully somebody will show it to you. And one person has it, but during their month, they're praying for the group in total. And they are praying about who gets it next. Where does Mary go next to visit that next person? And it's meant to be kept in the kitchen or wherever the person needs it to remind them of their service in the home and that that's a joyful thing. Let's face it, Mary did the things we did. She changed diapers, she cooked, she cleaned, she did laundry on a rock in a river, probably. She's very much like us in her service to her family, only she did it perfectly. We do it very imperfectly, but we have her as a role model. So, yes, serve in our own Calcutta. Let the kitchen Mary that you're going to see today show you that wherever your service is, it can be in your workplace, it could be in your neighborhood, it could be anywhere, but it starts in the home, whatever your home circumstance looks like, married, single, living with your parents, whatever that looks like. We serve in kindness to others from that place, and that's where we need to. So I'm just looking real quick because I did write a little sketchy thing of notes here. And usually when I write something, it means something. So let's see, I think I've pretty much covered it. And that's a good thing because we don't want to take up too much of your time. But anyway, like Mother Teresa said, you don't have to come to Calcutta to serve others. You can serve in your own Calcutta. So let that stand in your heart. Let the little quote I gave from Mother Teresa about starting in your home, because it's easier to think of serving people far away. But when we think of good service as service to people that we already know, we don't see that as effectual. And we need to, right? Don't discount. This is the important part here. Don't discount your service. Don't look at others and think, oh, look what they're doing. It's so easy to want to be what other people are. You have no idea what they even think of themselves in their own service and what they think of what other people are doing. Listen, it's, keeping up with the Joneses, and we don't need to do that in our faith life. We need to be where God calls us. So serve in your own Calcutta. As you look at the kitchen Mary, look at her and think, Mary served in very simple ways. Yes, it was for a hugely greater good. But our greater good is no different. We're trying to make the world a better place. We're supposed to be the hands and feet of Jesus, serving where we are in the moment, not where we think we should be in the future. So don't compare yourself to other people in your service or in their service, or how much better somebody's kid is doing in school than your kid, or what college your kid goes to. None of that matters. Serve in your Calcutta, serve in your family, serve with love. The next thing you're going to do is a project that's going to, and I think Clara's going to talk about a reminder for you to have in your own home of how valuable your service is. So we've picked a little activity that hopefully will stand as a reminder as you see it or use it each day. So know I love you all. In all things you do, let it be God's words, God's thoughts, and God's will, so that you know that you're in the right place at the right time, serving where you're called to serve. God bless you all. See you later. Bye-bye.